Crouch. Bind. Set.
Joe presents the House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
Well, it's the morning after the night before. We had a fairly lively live show in our first House of Rugby here in Tokyo, brought to you by Joe, together with our very good friends at Guinness. Haskin Tins have popped onto a plane and gone to Hong Kong for the night, as you do. So it's nice to be able to talk some proper rugby with a respected rugby journalist. Elma Smit, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Someone called me a respected rugby journalist.
Yeah.
You have clearly not been paying attention to the absolutely nutty things we've been doing.
Well, I think that there's an element of that, branching out into different areas. But respected rugby journalists having a lot of fun out here in Japan.
Yes, so Rugby World Cup gave me the opportunity of a lifetime and I wasn't going to say no.
Absolutely.
So here we are.
Here we are. Should we go for a wander? We'll sort of talk about what's to come over the next few days, next few weeks, etc. See how we get on. How are the energy levels, having done
a
4 weeks?
A long
5
tournament.
weeks?
Yeah. No, it's actually really exciting now because I do feel like everyone gets a bit of a second wind when you hit quarters.
Yep.
Because the intensity, just everyone kind of gets pretty laser focused. Not only the teams, but also the people covering the tournament. You're like, these games are really massive, and everyone's kind of sitting ready for some upsets now.
Yeah.
Because this is the stage at which it kind of really makes a difference to the narrative and the kind of stories you get to tell.
Yep.
So this is really exciting stuff now, getting into the quarterfinals. And I also feel like different fans arrive now.
Yes.
It's like
House of Rugby.
House of
Little
Rugby
second
arrived. So you have kind of a second batch of people coming into Japan now. You can kind of see them.
Yeah.
Spot them.
Loads of people will be very familiar with what it is you have been doing, but just officially, what is your role out here?
My role out here is to produce and present a really fun show called the Rugby World Cup Daily.
Yep.
Where we take a pretty irreverent approach to rugby.
Good, we like that. Yep.
Yeah, we kind of just making George Gregan ride carrots and.
Right. I didn't see that one. How did that go?
Serious quizzes like, is it vegan, George Gregan?
Good.
And then I would just kind of go, what is the mascot of South Africa and is it vegan?
Right.
Obviously not.
No.
England?
I don't even know if England have got a mascot.
The rose?
The rose. I see the emblem.
The emblem.
Yes, that probably is vegan.
Vegan, yes.
I see.
Yeah, so stuff like that.
Got you.
And then kind of sushi Jenga win predictor games.
Good.
Where we have a Jenga set made out of sushi pieces.
Pieces. Very Dutch.
Yes. Yeah. And then, kind of playing sushi with Akito Yamada.
What fun. So actually it has been a good laugh.
It has been. We have literally laughed until we cried. We laughed until we cried yesterday.
Yep.
Coming up with some of the stuff is often just deliriously sleep-deprived giggle sessions.
Yep.
Pints at the pub.
Yes.
The kind of places where all the good stuff
Proper
happens.
brainstorming.
So it's been really cool. I get to work with a brilliant team of seriously talented editors / animators, because sometimes they have to do a lot of work.
Yes.
Resurrecting what's left of me in the morning.
Right. There's a bit of that on all sides, I can assure you.
So I feel like most of the time it's just really sympathetic editing.
Good.
But we're getting great engagement from people. We kind of the input direct input and advice and instruction that we're getting from fans.
Yep.
Has been so much fun. And then going around just Japan and seeing rugby fans up close and having them come up to us and say, "Do you know what you should do?"
Yeah.
Or grabbing
Brilliant
the microphone.
idea.
Yeah, or grabbing the microphone and going, "I want to interview you."
Okay, so it's been really interactive.
So people
and
have
fun and
honestly kind of decided this is their show, and they've taken serious levels of ownership.
Have you noticed since you've been here the general interest in the World Cup grow?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah. And I mean, it's going to sound silly because obviously I'm on the payroll, I'm going to say that, but it really has changed. In the beginning, I felt like Japanese fans were just trying to live that omotenashi thing where they kind of welcome everyone and they just support everyone and they learn all the anthems, and that stuff was remarkable to experience up close.
Respect rather than a real engagement.
But then, I mean, Japan, Scotland, the number of people who burst into tears spontaneously during that match.
Amazing.
You know, the level of investment that they've clearly felt. That, you know, not always be able to verbalize in English, but you could see the emotion.
Yeah.
Just the kind of number of jerseys sold in this country. The
Yes.
Japan jersey they sold 200,000 of them.
That's unbelievable.
That's
You
3
can't get them
Yokohama
over here anymore,
stadiums.
can you?
They're sold. To see a country the size of Japan clearly embrace an event like this to the extent that they have has been, wow, yeah, it's been really meaningful.
And you were at the Japan-Scotland game, weren't you?
Yeah.
And just a sense of what that's like in the stadium, and I suppose sort of seeing the development of that support from the respect into this all-out passion that we're
Into
enjoying.
serious passion, yeah. And initially what you'd see at the games would be that people would be explaining what's happening on the pitch to other people in their group. So there would be a lot of kind of, what's that, what's this, and then by the time Japan-Scotland rolled around, it was people seriously kind of being into the game and not having to have the laws explained to them anymore. You see a lot of that happening at the pubs as well.
Yeah.
Initially, a lot of people were just explaining laws, and you'd find these little booklets at the pubs
Yep.
that explain the laws of rugby to you.
Good.
Which is so
Good.
cute.
I could do one of those.
Yeah. and then by Japan, Scotland, people were really just super engaged, and the kids were all clapping. And the you know that hard-working ethic that Japanese people are known for, that insane levels of work ethic, translated not only into the way they play rugby now, because I mean the intensity is insane,
Phenomenal.
but also the way they fan, because Japanese fans, the ones that I sat with, an entire corner of the stadium that I sat in, would just go, Nippon, Nippon. And they would not do that 7 times.
Yeah.
They would keep doing it for 17 minutes.
Wow.
My hands are literally aching. I'm trying to keep up. But I mean, I've also now lost interest in this Nippon business because I actually want to watch the rugby.
Yep.
But they're all furiously staring at the pitch and chanting louder and softer depending on the level of intensity that's happening there. No one is swearing at the ref. No one is shouting a player's name.
Yep.
And they just meticulously following this little beat, and everyone's going, Nippon, da da da, Nippon. It's very different to, I mean, this is my 3rd Rugby World Cup, and it's very different to what I've seen before.
But it's almost exactly what the game needs. It's just something very fresh, something very new.
Yeah.
And they've absolutely taken the opportunity and sort of grabbed it, haven't they?
And then the MC at the stadium would start a different beat. So he'd come on the mic and he'd go, na 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 na, and then he'll start that, and then and they would keep going with it until he decides, okay, there's a different thing going now.
Yeah.
So the way that they express support, and it's very polite. There's a lot of clapping, and then when they're shouting, it's regimented shouting, but it's not, or you know. And then every time Michael Leach gets the ball, it's Leach.
He is the poster boy, isn't he?
He is.
He is everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Really enjoying the weather.
It's very English. Did you bring
very
it with
English.
you?
I think we've packed it and sadly bought it. What has it been like though in terms of? Because it was unbelievably humid at the start, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This is quite a welcome release.
Yeah, it was unlike. I mean, and I did the Cricket World Cup in the summer.
Yes.
Summer.
Yes,
over in England and Wales, and I have not experienced heat like that working on a project ever in my life before.
Yeah.
It was literally about 35 degrees Celsius and 80 to 95% humidity for a few weeks.
Wow.
Like, it wasn't just every now and again we'd have a hot day. Every day we just, I would wake up cramping.
Wow.
Because of the amount of sweating you do, not because I was working out.
Yes. But just because it
you'd
it out of you.
Yeah, and also the kind of things we were doing, you'd walk a lot. So you'd walk kind of 15 kilometers a day.
Yep.
And then also back sweat was kind of a consistent feature of the first.
But it's one in all in. At least everybody's sort of suffering in the same way.
Yeah. But Japanese people don't seem to sweat the way we do.
Right.
So our Western crew stuck out like badly.
Right.
Just because of how we're like just streaming sweat everywhere.
I can imagine. And so to this weekend, and we've obviously got this wonderfully sort of romantic rematch, given everything that happened in Brighton 4 years ago.
I'm dreading it.
Are you genuinely dreading it?
I don't want obviously South Africa to lose.
Yeah.
But I almost also don't want Japan to lose.
I know. Well, I can see from your perspective, it's the one quarter-final probably you didn't want.
Yeah, don't want South Africa to be the bad guys.
Yeah.
You know, that spoils everyone's party out here. Everybody is on board with Japan winning this.
That's absolutely true. Yes, and if you're the good guys and you go out, then that's your World Cup dream over.
So,
are you nervous about it, or are you?
I don't
sort of quietly
honestly.
confident?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident.
Oh,
Only because obviously we watched the warm-up match that South Africa played against Japan on the 6th of September, shortly before this Rugby World Cup here in Japan.
Yes.
Very closely.
Yep.
And we're very impressed by what we saw. And the traditional strength of the Springboks. I mean, the strong line-out play, you know, setting up those mauls. I don't know. I can't see Japan having... So they lost 41-7 in Saitama.
Yeah. They played quite well for the first 20-odd minutes, didn't
and
they?
Then
and then drifted away.
And Japan have started badly. Like, for example, against Scotland, they were 7-0 down.
And Ireland.
And they were looking very out of sorts initially in that game against Scotland. I mean, I remember sitting in the audience, and this actually made it into the vlog, where I turned to camera and go, this isn't feeling great.
Yeah.
And if they start like that against the Springboks, I'm afraid that
will be gone.
there won't be a lot of breathing room.
Yes.
Only because they will be up against some serious physicality.
Yeah.
I think the breakdown's going to be crucial.
Yes.
Absolutely crucial. And they have shown to be probably the team that work the hardest around that area. You know, they're just so consistently in there. The way their scrum halves play, it's very impressive. They have some crazy, you know, talented wingers, but South Africa has Cheslin Colby, so
Yes, that's very
I don't know
true.
if there's much to pick there.
I just wonder though whether Japan's game will be. It is so unlike anything that they've produced. They seem to have come a very long way in a short space of time. And I just wonder if it's so unusual. Certainly Ireland and Scotland just struggled with the speed
got
of
turned
ball
over
and
by the speed.
And once they got on with it, there was nothing they could really do to stop it.
I do think that you need to keep in mind, though, that Ireland and Scotland don't play these Japanese players in Super Rugby the way South Africa does.
Yeah.
And although many of the core Sunwolves players this year are not playing in this Japan team because they pulled back their Japan players, their national team players out of Super Rugby to a certain extent, these guys have been playing Super Rugby for a few years. And plenty of our South African players have been out over here in Japan playing top league seasons.
Yes.
You know, loads of them.
Yeah.
And so there's a much greater level of familiarity. I don't think it's as unknown a quantity as perhaps it was to Scotland and Ireland.
Yeah. What about back home? Is everyone very confident as a result? Or are there one or two little gremlins? Flickers of self-doubt?
I think there are people who are a little worried about this, about playing Japan, because it's in Japan and also because the fact that Japanese people have embraced this tournament and taken such ownership of it. And we know, because we all remember 95, those of us who are ancient enough, remember what it meant to the Springboks playing that 95 Rugby World Cup at home in front of their own audience.
Yeah.
And an audience which, in a different way, but similarly also in 95, embraced rugby. Large, you know, groupings in that audience had not been supporting the Springboks until that Rugby World Cup. And so it's a bit of that similar kind of, if you have such a massive influx of positive sentiment that carries your team, you sometimes are really able to play exceptionally well and beat the odds. And so I think that's the thing that makes South Africans a bit apprehensive about this matchup. But generally, I don't think that there are too many people back home who seriously believe that we're going to lose.
Okay, we shall see. What was the reaction off the back of the loss to the All Blacks? Because there were such high hopes for South Africa. No side has ever won the tournament having lost a pool game.
Yes.
Did that dent the aura and I suppose the belief, or is because you play New Zealand so often, is that sort of just, you know, it was a 50-50 game, both sides have gone through, off you go?
Yeah, I don't know if... I mean, we were pretty disappointed within the first 24 to 48 hours of that.
Yeah.
I think then getting out there and playing a few other pool games have evened out the sentiment around it and around that result a bit. It's disappointing to lose to anyone, particularly the All Blacks, because our players certainly believe that they can beat the All Blacks.
Yeah.
If it's a one-off knockout game, South Africans do go into battle convinced that this is theirs to win.
Yeah.
So it was disappointing not getting that result, although I think the net kind of effect of it is that we now don't play Ireland in the quarter.
Yeah.
And this is something that Rassie Erasmus anticipated. In fact, he forecasted it. So I don't think anyone's kind of too upset by the way it's worked out. That stat around the fact that no Rugby World Cup winning team has won the tournament after losing a pool game, it's really just that. It is a stat.
Someone somewhere is going to break it at some point.
At some point, it's going to go. It's a bit like that stat that Ireland's never kind of made it past the quarter-final, which is also, it's pretty crazy to think.
I know.
But, I mean, that could change any moment now.
Where would you put your 50p on the Ireland All Black game?
All Blacks.
Really? You don't think... I mean, Ireland won 2 of the last 3, arguably could have won 3 of the last 4 were it not for that extraordinary Ryan Crotty try in 2012.
Yeah.
Broke Irish hearts in Dublin. But you don't think there's a little bit of one big performance in the boys in green?
Look, I love the fact that they got each other in this quarterfinal. It's definitely a mouth-watering prospect.
Yeah.
The All Blacks, they're not the kind of team who will be kind of underdone because they've had a lot of time off.
Yeah.
I don't think so at all. And I don't know if this Irish side of this Rugby World Cup, maybe a year ago it would have been a bit different.
Yeah.
But
They certainly haven't been playing the rugby of 18 months ago.
I don't know. I just can't see it.
Okay. England, Australia.
Ooh. I wish they could. I almost wish they could. Well,
Is that the hardest to call?
Yeah,
Or Wales,
probably.
France? England,
No.
You think England, Australia? is the hardest to
Australia. Yeah, because Australia they're the kind of team who have it in them to come in and play one exceptionally good Rugby World Cup game.
call? Good.
And they had no business being in the final in 2015. If you look at the way they run into that World Cup,
Yeah.
I mean, it was disastrous. It was. I mean, there was a lot wrong, and they just came into that Rugby World Cup and somehow made a final.
Yeah.
And you know, I kind of feel like the psychology of Australians generally allow them to do the unthinkable at occasions like this, and the fact that they've been kind of chirpy with the media and Michael Checker's been going for everyone.
Yeah.
I think temperamentally, I mean, all of us are like, oh, this is terrible, but it's so Australian.
It is so Australian.
It's just so Australian.
What is... I'd love to know how South Africans are tracking England at the moment.
A little worried.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think there is a genuine challenge in do you really?
I worked with John Mitchell very
Yeah.
closely
Yeah.
at Supersport for a number of years.
Yeah.
So what I know of Mitch
Yes.
scares the hell out of me.
Really?
Yeah, because he's very good.
Because of the way he thinks about the game, and he seems to have settled in very well. There were one or two worries, not necessarily worries, but there were one or two. There was a lot of interest in how 2 big characters, Eddie Jones and John Mitchell, would work together in an England capacity.
Yeah.
But it seems to have worked really, really well.
That's the thing, and I feel like that thread, that narrative's kind of fallen by the wayside, like no one's talking about it anymore. It doesn't seem to be an issue.
Yeah.
And obviously South Africans know Eddie Jones well because he was
Yes.
involved in 2007 when
That's
South
right.
Africa won the Rugby World Cup under
Yeah.
Jake White.
Yeah.
So there are 2 very astute coaches there in the same coaching setup. And the South African players also know, Andre Pollard, Louis de Jager,
Yeah.
Jesse Creel, who now isn't here anymore, but they were all coached by Mitch and loved being coached by him.
Really?
Yeah, they really enjoyed playing under him and found great reward in the kind of coaching style that he brought to the Bulls when he was there.
Yeah.
So as a South African, I think
Just keeping
those
your
are 2
eyes.
brilliant coaches to have together in one coaching setup.
Is Eddie fondly remembered in South Africa? There's that wonderful story. Was it Brian Habana who gave him you have to be in South Africa to get a South African blazer, and Habana gave him his. Is that right or not?
I haven't heard that, but
I think I'm right in
it
saying.
sounds plausible.
Yeah.
So that you're not supposed to wear the blazer.
That's right.
Yeah. No, it is kind of fondly remembered. Of course, he did dump the Stormers unceremoniously.
Very true.
So
Very true.
I interviewed him the day before the South Africa-Japan game in Brighton.
Yep.
And we were doing a thing for a show that was only going to air after that match.
Right.
And we decided to not make it about South Africa-Japan because the match was going to obviously be won by South Africa. And we decided to rather do a thing about welcoming him to Cape Town. So we made a Gatsby, which is a Cape Townian kind of sandwich thing, like a massive BLT.
Lovely.
And we just made a Gatsby and chatted about the fact that he'll be moving to Cape Town soon.
Yep.
Whole big long spiel about that. And off camera, I still asked him, so what's going to happen tomorrow?
Yeah.
And he was like, mate, we're definitely going to lose.
Really? Isn't that extraordinary?
He wasn't feeling confident coming into that game. Not to me, not off camera.
Right.
So it was impressive, obviously, to sit there. Like, I remember clearly
That's
getting into the lift
amazing.
in my hotel in Brighton going, tra-la-la-la, we're just going to the game. Obviously, we're winning this one, so we're going to have some fun tonight.
Straight on, yeah, exactly.
And then feeling like I'm going to vomit on my own shoes. When
Do you remember the emotion of that day? I mean, was there a, obviously it was absolute destination, but was there a bit of you, because I remember watching it at Twickenham actually, I think it was I can't remember what game followed at Twickenham.
Yeah,
It felt like the game not only that lit up 2015, and we needed that, obviously.
yeah,
what
it
happened with
woke
England,
everyone up.
but it also got this tournament started 4 years early.
Yeah, definitely.
In the most extraordinary way.
But it did make me feel literally like throwing up on my shoes.
Right.
I was sitting in front of where the comms boxes were at that Brighton venue. I had like open air, those little white tables, and the Kobus Wiese and Tox van der Linde were sitting right behind me, and Matt Pearce and Bob Skinstad was on the other side. And I kept on looking back at their faces, and they just became more ashen.
Yeah.
It was like really depressing looking towards the end of the match. And then when the final whistle blew, obviously the denial was pretty big.
Yeah.
And my producer was with me, said, come on, we need to go speak to some fans. We need to get reactions out of the average Joe here.
Yeah.
And I was like, just give me a minute, because I feel not great.
Tell her to London down.
Yeah. And I literally just put my head down.
Yeah.
Took a few deep breaths, went out. And no South Africans wanted to speak to me. They were like, go away. We don't want to reflect on this at all.
Yeah.
And the Japanese fans there were all in tears. And they were just like, cry, 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 so happy. And that made me, obviously, in the moment, incredibly depressed. But also very excited about what this World Cup could be like, the 2019 one, knowing that all of these people would now be welcoming rugby to Japan eventually.
Yeah.
And the kind of hope and excitement that it created was well timed.
Yes.
So it's our pleasure, Rugby Universe.
You've done a very big deed, South Africa. I mean, have you ever spoken to any of the players there? I remember hearing Jean de Villiers and Scott Berger talk about it and the sort of humiliation of it. Obviously, having gone on to then finish third in the tournament, you sort of corrected it in somewhat, but
Look,
it's sort of a scar that will never go away.
Yeah, and it, luckily most of them have taken to it with self-deprecating humour.
Yes.
You know, they discuss the topic often.
Yes.
People want to talk to them about it.
I bet.
Often.
Yeah.
You know, so I think they've built up nice thick skins. I have spoken to a lot of them. I remember sitting in the press conference afterwards looking at Heineke and John de Villiers and feeling desperately sorry for them.
Yes.
Because it wasn't even sad. Like it was such shock.
It was
It was literally just absolute disbelief, sitting there in like absolute shock. But in the years since, I think a lot of them have really moved on from it with kind of as much kind of self-effacing humour as you can muster.
Yes, which you're going to need. So just, I suppose, a quick final few thoughts about this weekend.
Yes.
It is knockout time. It sort of feels like the tournament changes gear a little bit at this point.
Yeah.
As for tomorrow and the first game, England-Australia, you're going to go with to make it through?
Probably England.
Do you think? Just?
Just.
Interesting the selection they've made.
Scrappy, is.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Brutal, physical.
Yeah.
But England just to pick it up the
I think the Aussies are going to literally throw like great, big, entire kitchens
Yes.
at the
But England are kind of built for that now.
That's the thing. I
Quite,
don't see, and I know. I don't see an upset there.
Okay.
I don't see it going the other way.
Ireland, All Blacks. You're going to stick with the All Blacks.
Yeah, that's definitely a Southern Hemisphere one I'm going for.
Okay, comfortably. Okay. Sunday we've got Wales, France, which we haven't really discussed actually.
Ooh, do you know what? I love the Welsh, and
Right.
I love the way they play. And
Some big
can
characters.
you
in there as well.
imagine just what it would be so much fun if France wins that, because then that would be France playing the game of the tournament for them,
Yep.
and then South Africa gets them in the semi-final.
Yep, 95 all over again. Yeah.
I have been fantasizing about that, thinking, oh, that would be so good.
Yeah. But in terms, I mean, France, what's been the sort of inside story on France? Because
Mutiny?
It is just mutiny
Just
again.
sheer
Standard fare.
standard French,
It is extraordinary how they managed to sort of come to a World Cup in disarray, sort of look as if they've got something going,
Yeah.
and then fall apart again
And then-
off the back of it.
Well, and remember, they're gearing up to host 2023, so it would do a lot for their tournament back home in
Yes.
4 years' time
Yeah.
if they managed to do the most French thing out there, which is to cause a quarterfinal,
Yeah,
That's
a brilliant point actually. I forgot
Lava.
about 2023.
Yes.
But we're going to go with
Probably Wales.
probably Wales.
Look, I mean, when I fill in my predictor app, that's probably going to be what I'm going to pick.
Okay, and then last but not least, no upset.
Definitely South Africa.
Definitely South Africa.
I don't think the same kind
Once
of margin.
been knocked twice shy.
Yeah, it's not going to be the 41-7 result we had on the 6th of September.
Yeah.
I think it'll be closer.
Yeah.
But I still think it'll be a kind of a solid South African win. I think we're
Yes.
going to leave after that game
Yes.
feeling kind of solid, set, ready, bring it. And I do think that all of this hype and focus could cost Japan a bit. I think the fact that they've made history now,
Yeah.
I think that might get under their skins a bit.
Okay. The trick then is that the party doesn't go out if the hosts go out of their party. Do you know what I mean?
No, I don't think the Japanese people will lose interest in this tournament regardless of what happens, because
Yeah.
they love the All Blacks
Yes.
possibly
Actually, there's a lot of
more than
billboards.
Kiwis love the All Blacks.
Right.
It's the level of. I have been asking people to explain this to me.
Yes.
They say it's because they're in the same time zone. They have a long-standing kind of firm friendship thing. I'm like, I don't buy it, but
Yeah.
Japanese people love the All Blacks.
Yes.
And the kind of the videos that we've seen coming out of people's lounges of their kids doing the haka in front of the TV,
Yeah.
little Japanese kids just going nuts for the haka has been
very
so
special.
cool.
So we'll have New Zealand against England, South Africa against Wales.
And I think England could do the business against New Zealand.
right.
I think Eddie Jones
will relish that.
That's going to be I think that would probably mean more to him than
Yes.
winning another World Cup.
Yes. You're probably right actually. Just saying farewell to the All Blacks.
Yeah, and I think it would be an interesting level of spice there for John Mitchell as well.
Yes. God, yes, very good. That is very good. So then, just sticking your final flag in the sand, the winner of the World Cup will be
South Africa!
no disbelief at all.
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you thought that all the way through?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I've consistently felt that. I did feel a little disappointed when I woke up the morning after New Zealand, South Africa, because I felt like they could win that game, and
Yeah.
then they just didn't look nearly convincing enough. But it wasn't a knockout,
Yeah.
and the net result wasn't entirely bad.
Yes.
So it's actually fine.
I love the confidence. I love the belief. Can I also just say it's been so nice to talk rugby.
Aw.
Thank you for bringing some glamour to a fairly shambolic show, House of Rugby. We're not really missing Tins and Hass very much, actually. Thank you, Elma. Lovely to chat.
Thank you.
Thank you for lending us your brolly as well.
Okay,
Quick cup
well,
of coffee.
Definitely.
We'll go and debrief. All right.
Definitely.
Thank you very
definitely.
much.
You've been watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness. Drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.co.uk for the facts.